is Wednesday, April 22nd. It's right at 12:30, so coming to you on time today, and happy about that. That isn't always the case. And today is show number 112. So as I always do, I'm assuming I am live right now, but let me jump over to Facebook just to make sure of that. So bear with me here. And if you are out there watching or listening, give us a like and maybe drop into the comments. Let me know where you're coming to us from. Where are you quarantining? And that will be fun for sure. All right. So it does look like we are live. So I am happy about that. And all right. Yeah, this is good. So before I get going here, I'm just going to ask all of you, we are all in quarantine. We're social distancing. We're staying at home. We're doing our best to play our role in, what is it called? Dropping the curve, lowering the curve. There you go. John just helped me out. Flattening the curve. You can tell, guys, I haven't even been watching news lately because I find it so demoralizing. So I don't even turn the news on. But this is a tremendous time, whether you're a business owner or you're working for your company. Maybe you're a solopreneur and you're working for yourself. This is a tremendous time. If you aren't working on projects or doing design work or playing some role within your company, it really is a tremendous time to be picking up new skills or working on either your business improvement. How can you be working on your processes, your operations, your marketing, whatever that component in your business is? Or maybe you want to pick up some personal skills. Maybe you want to learn that new language. Maybe you want to read that book. So drop into the comments and let us know what you're doing to work on. What are you working on during this very odd time in American or global history? I was going to say American history, but this is happening to all of us around the planet. So would love to hear from you. All right. So what I am going to jump into now is our awesome guests. So I am bringing to you the VP, Vice President of Residential of Crestron Electronics, the one and only Mr. John Clancy. So let me go ahead and bring him in. John, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
See, I told you the audio works, whether you're on camera or not on camera. I heard you perfectly. You're like, let me help Ron out.
The flatten the curve has just been, I think, burned into our brains. But yes, I wanted to make sure you got that right.
Are you watching much news these days? Like I had blocked out that term because I hadn't watched the news in a few weeks.
So there was a period of time early on where I was watching it every day, and it was depressing. And so now I try and just get a recap at the end of the day. If you watch it in real time, it's so unhealthy, I think. And it's, yes, information is important, and you don't want to put your head in the sand, but you straddle that line between overdoing it, where the same thing is just repeated over and over, and it's not good. And so it's depressing. And so, yes, I think, trying to find a balance there is really important.
Yeah, I'm still on the hunt for a good, balanced, neutral-ish news source.
Yeah.
So on a Friday night or maybe on the weekend when they're replaying news from the week, I'll bounce through MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, and I'll just I'll have a drink in hand usually, and I'm like, it's just pure entertainment. Let me see what they're saying and how many times they can look at the same challenge, but from different perspectives.
Yeah. Look, the drink in hand absolutely helps.
It does.
And trying to get all those varying perspectives absolutely helps, because everything's been so politicized. It's really hard to just get information, right? Pure facts.
Pure facts. I've landed at all that I can do is what's right in front of me. And my team and I, our nose are to the grindstone. We're working on helping our customers and protecting our friends and family. And that's all I can do. So all that other stuff, I'll let other people worry about it. I'm just focusing on what's in front of me.
Agreed. Understood.
So, Mr. John, Mr. Clancy, so some of our audience may not know you personally. You and I have known each other for many years, but they may not know you. And so I always like to start there. If you could kind of go into a little bit of your background today. You are running Crestron's residential business. I want to say globally. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so you're the guy running it globally, and I know you've been doing some really amazing things, and you even have some super amazing things that the world will know about down the road sooner than later. But let's go. Where did you come from? How'd you get into this business?
So, I'm not really the best at talking about myself.
I know, so I'm putting you in that uncomfortable spot. Talk about yourself, John. Go.
Provide you my bio. But nonetheless, I've been at Crestron for about 4 years now. I do run this business unit, the residential business unit globally. I did come from the integrator side, right? And I think that really helps me portray internally to my peers and my boss and others inside about what the dealer needs, what our end users need, right? And I think that we're finally beginning to show some of that. It takes years to change that, and so after 4 years of being there, it's been a dramatic learning experience, but it's also been a huge benefit to me and to the company to have that side. I did spend 23 years at one of the largest integrators in the country. I started there in 1992 as a technician. Okay, worked my way up. I taught myself Crestron programming in 1993 when it was a DOS utility.
That was all line code, right? That was no graphical programming.
It was a DOS utility called Workshop back in those days, and even the touch panel side. I tell this story, and it's somewhat embarrassing, but it's also tells the story better than I could. When we first started to design touchscreens in 1993, I had a grayscale laptop, and we had and Crestron touchscreens at the time were able to view or display all 8 colors, all of them,
all eight. It was wow.
And But the fact that I was working on a grayscale laptop made the differentiation between, say, cyan and yellow almost impossible.
I was just say that's got to be worse than being colorblind.
Yeah. So we I load panels, realize no, the colors are all going to have to change them and things like that. So I go back a long way in that space. The company I worked for, Audio Command Systems, had offices in New York, Florida, and California, and we manufactured our own audio distribution system at the time. We looked at Crestron very early on. Again, 1992, 93 is when I really started to dig into Crestron. And in the old days, when you had to change the function of a button, you physically had to change its wiring, right? And then discovering that I can do that change via software change, right, was dramatic, right? Or I wanted to add certain functions and features from just a change in code and loading that program was dramatic, and that really kind of ended our play into the manufacturing of these audio products. But what we did do is we reverse engineered Crestron keypads, because at the time these things were meant for real industrial use and not for the high-end home. So we took our manufacturing expertise at my old company and built our own keypads that sat on the Crestron or CrestNet network, and really built some really high quality, polished brass or brushed nickel or even gold plated keypads for high end homes that from the Crestron side looked like Crestron keypads. So we evolved from there. The first home automation system where we integrated things beyond audio video probably happened around 93, where we integrated lighting control, and again it was contact closure to execute lighting scenes and things like that. But anyway, I evolved internally in my company from just a technician to teaching myself programming to becoming and developing a project management skill set that, again, at that point in time really didn't exist in the residential part of the business. And then evolving into system design and engineering and building those pieces in our company at that time. And by 2000, I became an owner of the company, and we continued to grow. When I left, we had about 120 employees in 2016 when I left. But the thing that I am most proud of before leaving there was the average tenure of our employees, because I really felt it important to promote from within, right? Really be careful on who you hire, and really give people a career path, right? You know, when I looked at the people around me, you know, these were guys that I hired as technicians in the early 2000s who have elevated themselves and continue to evolve in their own ways. So when I left in 2016, the average tenure of our employees, again, with 120 employees, was over 12 years. And that's pretty dramatic in this day and age, right? People bounce around between companies all over.
That's unheard of. I mean, broadly across our industry, I would say that's pretty unusual.
You know, and I was the perfect example. You know, I started off as a technician, and I left there as one of the owners, because I really thought it was really important to provide a career path for everyone in the company, right? Okay, I'm this right now. I'm the warehouse manager, or I'm the driver. You know, what is my career path? How do I move on from here? And I thought that was really, really important. And we really focused on, you know, keeping our employees engaged and giving them a path to grow.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know the CE Pro 100 just came out again. I'm trying to see if I can get it here in front of me, but I want to say that Audio Command again was in the top 10 or the top 20 in the country.
Yeah, so, look, I think for the past 20 years they've lingered in that top 10, and again, you know, Robert and Jonathan, who started the company, again had tremendous foresight in the 70s when the company started, and they've always surrounded themselves with really good people. And they maintain that today. So I give them a lot of credit in that respect. And you know, and then anyway, so moving on from there, I was elected to the CEDIA board. I spent 2 terms on the CEDIA board, and while I was on the board, I took this opportunity at Crestron, and really it was about stepping back and looking at this chance to make a change in the industry. Right, here's Crestron, this very large company, primarily focused on the commercial space. Right, that's the bulk of our business, even to this day. But you know, in some respects, they've kind of started the home automation aspect of where we are today as the CI channel. And if I can just, you know, kind of, I use the term "wake the sleeping giant" and focus some of our resources towards this channel, we can succeed in ways that we really haven't realized yet.
What are your responsibilities these days at Crestron? I dropped global. I mean, that just sounds like a ton of responsibility right there. But like who answers to you, or what are you expected to achieve here?
So yeah, that's a really good question.
That's a loaded question. You're like, damn it, Ron, why'd you ask me that?
I wake up every morning asking myself that question. But you know, and if there were 26 hours in the day, I could feasibly work 26 hours, right? Because of my global responsibility regarding sales, right? That propagates the entire globe, right? So that the needs are always there, right? But there's a product development, a software development, a marketing aspect that is unique, and we've been able to have some autonomy. You know, one thing I am proud of over the past 4 years is I have gained my boss, you know, Randy's trust. And so he's let me do things that I think, you know, it really takes a lot of effort to get at Crestron or any big company like that, right? So, you know, having our own direction, and specifically relating to sales and marketing and product development. Again, as a former programmer, I knew when I came to Crestron, the idea of custom program projects for the mass was unsustainable, right? Right. And that's where the push towards Crestron Home really began. Yes, I think we'll always, you know, Crestron uniquely stands in this space as the only solution provider with a custom capability, right? And I think that, you know, at the extreme high end, the super yachts, the 50,000 square foot house, you know, that's where we live. But is that it? And so that's where, you know, the push towards Crestron Home and having, you know, a solution that's easy to deploy, that delivers a great user experience, but utilizes all of our high quality products, was really the focus. And that took years to get there. And about a year, you know, September of last year is when we launched it, and it's been ever evolving since. And you know, I'm really, really proud of that.
It's worth noting that I brought my whole team at One Firefly up to see you in New York. Now, this is before COVID. We heard an inkling something was happening over in Asia and starting to happen in Europe, but it still felt appropriate and safe to take my team and travel to New York. But you were very gracious, a wonderful host, you and your team, and took us through the various facilities there at Crestron. And it's definitely impressive. Not only the whole company, but then also the residential side of things and what you and your team are building. It's very, very cool. We have a couple of people that are giving you shout outs, John. So I'm going to put them up here on the screen. We got Ian coming to us out of Houston. He says, "What's up, John and Ron?" What's up, Ian, man?
Ian, I haven't seen you in a while.
I know, man. And then we got Rohan. Rohan coming to us from Atlanta. Good. I just had Rohan on the show maybe in the last 30 days or so.
I actually watched that one. That was great. Good to see you, Rohan, and hope all is well with you.
And we got Mr. Troy Morgan coming to us from Texas as well. Good to see you guys. Hey, Troy.
Always good to hear from Troy.
Now we got Thomas coming to us from Panama. He says, Ron and John. What's up, Thomas?
Nice. Hey, Thomas.
And I'm going to give a few more shout outs. I could keep doing. There's a lot of comments here, John. You're drawing quite a crowd. Wes says, control the controllables. That's right. And then Stephanie says, very true. Finding balance with all the news out there. I think this is back to our news conversation. Welcome to the show, John. So glad you're here. All right. So I'll get to, let me give one more from Mexico. Welcome, John. Saludos from Mexico. Thank you, Angel.
Awesome.
So John, how are you and your family handling quarantine? What is that like? You're up there in the epicenter. You're in the New Jersey, New York corridor. What does life look like for you personally?
Yeah, well, look, I am in the, I guess the hotspot of the nation right now, right? And
I think the world, actually, you're the hotspot of the world.
It's not a first place we actually would have strived for in the past. But, look, as you can see, I'm sequestered here in my basement. I have 3 students home learning right now. I have 2 college students and a middle schooler learning from home. So we try and scatter and we try and, do our own things. I spend 10, 12 hours a day here in front of this machine with online calls, online meetings. It is monotonous and it is somehow unbelievably exhausting.
Do you at least have a standing desk? Do you do the stand?
I work at my office in New Jersey. I do, but here at home I don't. So what I did do is buy a Peloton that I just recently had delivered. So I try and hit that between meetings.
Oh, nice!
Sitting like right outside my door here.
So you'll like show up to a meeting with beads of sweat rolling down your face.
I have a little towel there, but I do what I can. But I just felt after the first couple of weeks so unhealthy. Just sitting here for 10, 12 hours a day that I needed to do something. So that was the first thing I did, and it's helped. But it is amazing, that how I feel more exhausted at the end of one of these days than a similarly long day when I do commute back and forth, and it's just bizarre.
So I've done as part of our effort to give back to the industry, we've done a bunch of webinars in the last 6 weeks. And all of them generally have been about techniques and strategies that we practice that we think the world might benefit from. Really very little to do with exactly products or services from One Firefly. But so one of those tips, I'm going to give you the tip now, and we'll see if I'll check in with you in a few weeks. We'll see if you're doing it. And that is, one of the keys of working from home is you have to get outside. You have to take breaks. You need sunshine. You need vitamin D. If you just sit there and specifically sitting all day long, that sounds like you've broken that habit because you're going to the bike and back and forth. You have to design that flow so that you feel good, you feel healthy, you feel energized. And you can get there. You just have to imagine when you're at corporate, like you're in meetings, you're going to the boardroom, you're going to go see people in the factory, you're going to go to, like, you're walking and moving all the time.
I purposely walk we have 4 buildings on our immediate campus, and I purposely walk to all of those meetings because it's so much better than jumping in my car and driving 2 minutes. It's just, so I miss that, and I miss that, obviously, the human interaction part of it, but the physical part of just walking to the next meeting, it doesn't happen here.
So, John, you have customers around the world. You know, much of my business is here in North America, although we certainly have customers around the world as well, not remotely as many as you do. How are your customers doing? How's the marketplace doing right now?
So, obviously it varies by region, right? Australia seems to have come through this, right? They locked down very early on. And right now, I speak to our Australia team weekly. And from what I can see, it looks like they've come through this and they began to open up things. And so that's kind of shaken free. When I look at Europe, UK and Southwest Europe are still under lockdown and still really struggling as businesses for our dealers to do anything, right? So that's been really a big struggle. But here in the U.S., it's been very regional, right? In the New York area here, our dealers are locked down. They're prohibited from working on any construction sites. If they've been able to register themselves as essential businesses, they can provide support services to their customers, right, for the existing projects where they might need service and support, but they can't go to a construction site. Those don't exist, right? When I look out west, I spoke to a dealer out in Arizona last week who said, he's never been busier, right? All of the upgrade quotes he sent out to every one of his customers over the past year are all of a sudden he's getting calls on, and they of course they want to implement them right away. So he's busy, and again, I think it is regional, and it's somewhat based on even the size of the business, right? The larger dealers who have significant overhead had to make changes and make adjustments, right? So whether that's laying people off or furloughing people because their overhead is so great and they're counting on this continuous cash flow, they've had to make adjustments. The smaller dealers, some of them have been able to sneak through and get into projects and okay, I'm going to go to this site and I'm going to do this upgrade. I'm going to wear protective equipment. I'm going to wear gloves. I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to ask the family to be in another part of the house when we're there. When we leave, we'll provide instructions and maybe even a video on how the system is utilized instead of the in-person lesson. So again, dealers are adjusting and adapting in all different ways. And unfortunately, look, it's been really hard for a lot of them. And again, it's really based on region and to some extent size.
Yeah, have you? Well, let me take this a different direction. If I'm remembering correctly about my days in the way back machine from Crestron, Crestron, I think I remember runs a July through June fiscal year.
That's correct.
Is that still the case?
We're in Q4 right now. That's right.
I was gonna say, so this makes you. This is my Q2, but this is your Q4. What how are you guys trying to close the year strong? Like, how do you do that right now while there's all this weirdness going on around the world?
So I think let me step back a bit, right? I think post ISC, we came back from ISC again. ISC was a tremendous show for us. We had a huge attendance, and we had a huge attendance in our booth. But that was kind of the beginning of the rumblings of this virus, right? And
that was like 1 week after I saw you, because I was in New York, and then you were flying to Amsterdam.
Correct. So we came back from ISC with a what if mentality. What if this thing gets really bad? How do we, as a company, begin to operate under varying scenarios, right? So we moved a lot of or at least we experimented with parts of the individual teams, right? Our tech support, our sales support services, order processing, customer support and customer service.
You have thousands of employees.
We do. We have, many thousands of employees scattered all over the world, but for the most part, thousands just in our New Jersey headquarters, right? So how do we begin to operate or begin to practice to operate? So we began that right away, right? In early and mid-February, we began this experiment of sending these portions of these teams home and working with our internal IT group to make sure we had the right mechanisms in place. We had security in place, and we didn't miss a beat.
You started doing that in February.
We did.
Wow, that's tremendous foresight.
We came back from ISE because we saw that big companies like LG did not show, right? Samsung didn't send any of its U.S. representatives to the show. So we had the foresight to look and say, what if? What if this really continues down a really bad path? How do we maintain operation as a company, as a global company, right? Because, again, even though this is a global problem and a global pandemic, it hits different regions at different times, right? And it would be silly for us to just shut down when our customers need us at various points in various places, right? So we really began to experiment in mid and early February about how these teams can operate remotely. By the end of February, we had essentially pulled the trigger on that, right? We had moved a lot of these teams off-site. We never missed a beat, really, and everyone has been working from home, from tech support to tech sales to order processing. If you call Crestron, you will never know that the team is working from their homes, their basements, their dining rooms, or whatever. That is remarkable, right? To have that foresight. We haven't laid off anybody. We haven't furloughed anybody. I mean, that is a testament to the Feldstein family who own the company, right? That they have believed in keeping this team intact and really believing in that. And from a manufacturing side, yeah, we manufacture a lot of our products in Orangeburg, but most of our products come from factories in Mexico. Mexico has not been hit that hard. They really have done a really good job, at least based on the numbers, of what they have done to protect their citizens. And we have done a really good job to protect those employees. So we staggered shifts, we social distance, we do a lot of things to really protect our employees, and we really haven't missed a beat. You know, manufacturing, I was on a call last week where, you know, do we slow down manufacturing, right? And we decided that we won't, right? None of the projects, or for the most part, many of the projects that we're tracking haven't been canceled. They've only been postponed. And we don't want to leave a customer short, right? You know, June is by far the biggest month for us from an order perspective because it's the end of our fiscal year. And we don't want to leave anyone short. So yes, it's a huge investment, right, to continue to build these products and stock them and to keep them in the warehouse. But for our customers, it's the right thing to do. And again, it really is focused on making sure that we are there for them.
I'm going to theorize here. I'm going to pretend I have a crystal ball and say that I would think the New York, New Jersey markets might start easing up in the May, June time frame, but certainly much of the country probably will. I mean, I just started to hear that Georgia's opening back up, South Carolina's opening back up, and it's kind of, you know, the country's going to. Now, I'm not here to be political and say whether they should or shouldn't. I just think that's what we're hearing in the news, and it's going to start happening. And so I would theorize June probably still will be a bang-up year for Crestron.
Yeah, look, you know, June by far, like, again, it is by far our biggest month when it comes to shipping.
There's a lot of pent-up demand to get projects moving.
And again, like I said, a lot of these projects haven't been postponed. A lot of the dealers I speak to are still planning on delivering these products in May and June. They're ordering products now from us. They're pre-building racks, again, even in their own facilities, social distancing with their own employees, where they might have a technician come in early on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays to pre-build racks that are to be delivered at the end of May. And again, we're doing what we can to help them out.
I got to give a shout out to a couple of people here. Barb says she's, hi, John, coming to you from Pennsylvania. And then the one and only Kenny V.
Kenny V.
Kenny V. Kenny V's doing a bang up job with his own show. So Kenny, you gotta drop those notes in here. I don't know whether that's Facebook or LinkedIn. I know I've caught it a few times on LinkedIn. And
so Kenny does this online show with Will Sexton, another one of our RSMs based out of Las Vegas and the handle Southwest, including Arizona. and Kenny and Will do the Kenny and Will show on LinkedIn, and it's been hugely successful and very popular.
Yeah, no, Kenny's a rock star. Well, Will's a rock star too. I just don't know him personally, but I've known Kenny forever, which is awesome. Thanks, Ken. Now, John, I'm curious, and I'll speak from personal experience here at One Firefly. We track out our product development roadmap. Generally, we try to map it out about 18 months into the future, and so for example, just this month in April, we just launched a new product, our search engine marketing Google ad product. And we had other products slated to then happen next. And we've actually paused with my leadership team. We paused our plan for what was happening next. And we're actually moving different services into the mix, really based on this new marketplace, this new economy we're in. And the needs of our dealers have shifted in some respects. That's what we're doing. I'm curious, how does that product roadmap for you change, if at all, or is it already baked so solid and months and years into the future that this doesn't change anything?
So I would say typically it is baked months and years in advance, right? I mean, we know we're working on for the next 18, 24 months, and it is ironed out. I will say that this crisis has definitely caused us to look at things in a different way. So no doubt, I think there are opportunities out there for our dealers when the stay-at-home orders begin to secede. I think that homeowners have realized that they need to invest more in their home entertainment systems, their home systems in general, and secondarily, I'd say that the home office, which used to be, I'm okay with just a desk. That mentality changes, right? What is the infrastructure?
Or I'll have a desk in the playroom.
That's
right.
That's where I am. Yes, but but I mean even the home office, right? Even if it was a dedicated space in our dealers' projects, right, or our end users' homes, the infrastructure that goes into that space will absolutely change, right? So I think there's an opportunity there for us, Crestron, because of all the offerings we have on the corporate side of our business and being able to pull those into the residential side, right? So, but I'd say we're a week or so early to talk about some other opportunities because this has caused us to shift internally. There will be an announcement by us. There will be a new product category for us.
So you're saying you want to come back on next week? Is that what I just heard? So
maybe next week, maybe 2 weeks. But I will say that there are some very interesting partners and some of the solutions that we have in the commercial side of our business that will absolutely impact how people utilize their home systems and what value that brings to end users in a very dramatic way. And I don't mean to overstate this because it's not me. It's not how I am usually. But this is going to be something very dramatic. And I think that a year from now we'll look back at this crisis as a trigger point for a recheck in how we go to business in the residential space.
We manage marketing for many hundreds of integrators, and I can't remember the last time that I'll pick something specific on a dealer website, or I'll add something maybe in an integrator's brochure that we highlighted home office.
Yeah.
I can't think of a time we've done that in years and years. And I think that's going to be, we're going to look back and we're going to change that. We're going to, in the future, I think that it seems clear and obvious now that home infrastructure, home technology, home entertainment, and home office infrastructure and capabilities are going to be a priority for many consumers.
Yeah, look, you have a home learning space at your home, correct? Right?
I do.
How do you invest there? Is Wi-Fi is that good enough? Right? Even in the home office, right? Where it's okay, I'll slap my laptop down on my desk. That's good enough. Maybe not. Maybe a wired Ethernet connection and maybe a speaker bar with a camera is a good thing to have. Or maybe there's a desktop device or something that we can help our dealers with bring to that space add value for our end users.
Yeah, when I built this house with the builder Pulte, they're like a production builder. I don't know if they're nationwide, but they're certainly here in the East Coast. And this particular model, my wife gravitated to because off from the kitchen is a separate nook area that seats two, and they call it the Pulte Planning Center. And it was as if it was, I have one child, I have a son, and it would be his homework area. And now we thought he might come home from school and be using it only in that application. Now we look like geniuses because he's spending 5 days a week there now doing his home learning and video conferencing all day, 5 days a week with all of his teachers. And life is so, and I just got lucky and had the foresight and built a very robust network. I had my friend Al from Advanced Home Theater help me spec out the right gear. And so I have a great network. And so we're ready. We're good. But so many people around the world are not good. Their networks are not robust, and their homes are not set up for, whether you're working from home like you, John, in your basement, or your children working from, school or college.
Yeah. And again, these systems aren't always current, right? So this might have been installed 3-4 years ago. Your Wi-Fi is not up to the current technology. Your network infrastructure isn't up to the current technology, and they're being utilized in ways in which they never have been envisioned to.
Yeah. How are your sales team? I know that Crestron, you have like 20 plus sales guys and gals out there, and you have a architectural or design community biz dev team as well. How are they? What are they doing right now that they can't go shake hands? I don't know when we'll be allowed to shake hands again, right?
Shaking hands, according to Anthony Fauci, may never happen again, right?
May never. It's eliminated from our society globally.
Yeah.
We'll see. But
the people used to judge people by how good their handshake was. I don't know how that changes, but nonetheless, we have about 20 or so direct sales people throughout the U.S. and Canada, and we have about 10 or so indirect sales people. Again, very early on, when we internally put a travel ban in place, we didn't want our people traveling. Again, this was probably happening mid to end of February, where we shut down our training centers, shut down our experience centers, shut down our showrooms. We moved a lot of our people who are used to traveling in home or working from a remote location. And first and foremost, my direction to that team was to reach out to our dealers and really do a health and wellness check, right? Because look, these are our family, right? Regardless of the business aspect, these are the guys who we rely on all the time. We reach out to all the time, and it was super important that we provide a bit of a health and wellness check. So my direction to that team was to, call every dealer you have and ask them just, how are you doing? How are you personally? How's your family? How are your employees, and how are their families? Because if any of that is damaged, then nothing else matters, right? And that
there's no business conversation to be had.
No, and it's not even the place for it. It was really about just making sure our extended family was okay. And then secondarily, the questions, about, are you operating? Because again, this varies regionally, and even within a particular region, it varies by business size. A big company may be prohibited from doing anything, where a small company can go attack the single family home if they use protective equipment and they're deemed an essential service. So again, to understand what our dealers were doing from and what they're capable of and what their personal experiences were right now. So that was first and foremost. But again, we're offering all kinds of things. So our indirect sales team that you asked about has completely transitioned to in-house, right? No joke. We have Brian Shelley, who runs our New York City showroom, has taken his sales training or his experience dealing with end users and taken that online, right? So any of our dealers and their sales employees who want to understand better ways to go to market and to position Crestron, he's done a tremendous job in delivering that remotely and online. we have a group of individuals we call solutions engineers, right? And these guys are teaching our dealers, typically one dealer at a time at their facility, how to go about designing and installing Crestron Home or our lighting and shading solutions, right? That's all been transitioned online. Our business development team, who has been focused on the outside, right? Our design build professional partners has transitioned that whole messaging and even the education aspect to online, right? So a lot of our CEU accredited courses, we've been granted permission to deliver, which usually has to happen in person, to deliver those online. So we've added value in ways that we never have or would have before.
That just triggered a thought. I didn't know that had happened. Is that universal for all CEUs for the design or the architectural community, or is that just you went through?
I don't know if it's universal. I know that we got permission to do that.
It seems like a world-class opportunity for your dealers to be doing biz dev with their design communities, because that community at the moment still needs their CEUs. They need their credits.
Yeah, again, so these type of reach outs, right? Again, we would have never have done in the past in this way, right? We would have done the in-person events, and so this crisis has caused us to rethink and provide a different approach to delivering these very valuable pieces to the puzzle to our dealers and our community.
Now, John, you have a unique perspective in that you were an integrator for many years, and now you're at one of the very large manufacturers and companies in our space that operates globally. So you have a unique perspective for this question. Many of our customers, and I'm going to speak residentially, globally, many of our integrators out there are, what we'd classify as small business. So, anywhere from one man in a van to, maybe the audio command size of, 50 to 100 employees. And they're in a very odd situation right now. It's where that many of them had 2 to 4 months of probably pipeline, booked work. Maybe a few of them had more or less. And those projects, as you've said, and I this confirms what I've been hearing, those projects aren't canceled. They're just paused. So at some point it'll be appropriate to go back out and do those jobs. And yet now, while we are all quarantined and trying to spend time in our homes, there's less, the fact is there's just less business being signed. I'm not trying to be negative Nancy here. I'm just saying that's a fact of life. There's just less projects for the integrators that are being booked or signed. And so there's this like weird situation to where we're going to be allowed to go out into the industry or the marketplace and install, and then they're going to run out of work because they weren't signing new jobs. And then there's going to be some tremendous influx of new work and having to get all these jobs done that they don't have enough manpower. And so there's just the next 9 months to 6 to 12 months are going to be hairy. Yeah, what advice, if any, do you have? That's a really loaded question. I gave you a really hard one to answer, but what perspective do you have?
And again, that's where I really try and put my perspective as the integrator, on the manufacturing side. And again, what can we do to help, right? And I think, yes, there will probably be a boom when things resume, right? There'll be this hockey stick effect because of all these projects that have been held where, there are construction loans or whatever it is, some urgency to get these done and people moved into their projects, right? And then there probably will be a lull because we all know the time frame it is between the time a contract is signed and it's actually delivered, right? It's usually the construction cycle itself. But what can we do as manufacturers to help our dealers there? And I'd say, the telling times of going back to your existing customer base and talking about upgrades and opportunities there. Look, there are dealers I'm talking to these days that have limited manpower working in their shops, both working on their own showrooms or working on assembling racks for a May or June prospective installation date. But beyond that, going back to your existing customer base, right? The people who've now been sequestered at home, who have a 5-year-old system, right? That's an opportunity for an upgrade. And that can help fill that void between the now and the then that you're talking about.
What would be your guess as to how many integrators, and I'll say your customers, regularly reach out to their customers via, say, email marketing or anything like that?
Well, it's unfortunately sadly low.
It's got to be very low, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I would say broadly. My customer base is, they do lots of systems, including Crestron, and I would say generally, the idea of reaching out to existing customers to upgrade or add or replace, I'm going to say it's historically very low. That just means there's a world-class opportunity to be better and to do a better job of that.
And honestly, to be bluntly honest, it hasn't been good for Crestron dealers in particular, right? The cost of reprogramming a system can be crippling and can stand out compared to the devices or the products that are being added during this upgrade, right? So that line item for programming could in the old days with the custom program solutions stand out, and I do believe that what we're doing now with Crestron Home, where you can go back into a 4 or 5 year old system to somebody that hasn't yet experienced the current technology, and easily get in and get out and keep the soft costs down. And that's what really Crestron Home shines around. And while still delivering a world-class user experience, those can be huge benefits to a lot of our customers.
So you can take old hardware that's 5+ years old. You can go in and load the new Crestron Home software and deploy new UIs and new feature sets, and that's a fraction of the time that it would have taken, say, the old way.
Look, it's funny because we continue to go backwards. We support thousands of our existing product line or products within Crestron Home, but we continue to go backwards as well. I will share with you right now.
Everyone listen.
In our May release, in our May 18th scheduled release, okay, we will support first-party solutions that haven't shipped in 8 years. Things like our Pad 8A and BiPad products that we haven't shipped. So it allows our dealers to go back to older systems and easily upgrade them to Crestron Home. But we're not stopping there, right? So we will support Lutron Homeworks QS, not QSX, which is imminent, but QS directly within Crestron Home coming in middle May. And so again, this allows our dealers to go back to these systems and bring these customers up to date with, again, a very world-class user experience, but with simplicity and ease that they've never had before.
And that did your dealers know that functionality was forthcoming in May, or are you?
We try to communicate, but we we are doing our best, and that's why we hold webinars, we email our dealers, but again, we can't communicate enough to let everyone know that this is coming.
We are I'm mindful of time, John, yours and our audience. So I just have a couple of things I want to cover, and then we'll wrap up here. For some integrators, particularly the markets where they're in lockdown, now is an interesting time because they can't go out to their job sites. What should they be? What's your advice, your wisdom, your experience? What would you share with them? What are the things they should be mindful of and trying to accomplish right now?
So I used 2 examples before. There are some dealers who are either working on their showrooms or trying to enhance their office systems, right? There are dealers who are trying to get ahead of this curve, right? So that when things get released or relieved, that they can hit the market really strong. So they're pre-building racks and things like that. There are dealers who are completely locked down. And so what we're trying to do is provide education, right? In the past 5 weeks, we've done, 400 different dealer events online focused on Crestron Home or our lighting and shading solutions or sales training specifically, right? So trying to educate your employees so that when this is lifted, they are already experts at these products and that we can offer. That has really the feedback I've gotten from so many dealers about that has been so positive. Where we've even further discounted our packages, right? so that if a dealer has, 6 employees attending an online Crestron training next week, they may order these 6 packages to have shipped to their dealers or their technicians' homes, so that they have these in place. They can utilize them in their homes. In many cases, we're offering extended terms, so they're not getting billed in 30 days for this. That we understand that this is something that's going to take a partnership from a big manufacturer like Crestron, but also a way to get them positioned to really, re-enter the economy in a very strong way and be very effective.
Do you have any predictions on what the balance of the year is going to look like, just from I want to say a macro standpoint, the U.S. economy? Do you have any ideas?
Wow.
Our opinions. They're nothing more than opinions.
Look, it really, it depends on how long this lasts, right? And again, you start to see states lifting these barriers on their own and regionally, right? So I do believe we have the opportunity to come back really strong, and I do believe we at Crestron, with our June 30th end date, have the opportunity to come back and finish strong. And again, it's all about being there for our dealers now when times are not so good. How can we help you be successful right now and prepare yourself for what's coming down the road? And that's really been my message to our team and to our dealers is, we want to be that resource for you.
Awesome. John, it has been a pleasure having you on Automation Unplugged. It's hard to believe I'm all the way at, I think this is show number 112. But if folks want to get in touch with you directly and or Crestron, what do you recommend in terms of contact info?
My email is fine. Clancy, JCLANCY at Crestron.com is the easiest way. Like I said, I don't sleep that much. My time zones are confused and connected all over the place. So that's by far the easiest way to connect with me.
Did I get that right?
That is correct.
All right. Mr. John, thank you for coming on the show, man. I know we booked this back in January, and you and I both had no idea that we'd be talking about a global pandemic, but you've been a great sport and agreed to stay on.
It was a different world, and it was absolutely my pleasure. And thanks, Ron.
Awesome. All right, gang. So there you have it, the one and only Mr. John Clancy. I think we heard some great advice in terms of what to be doing and working on our business during these times. Certainly, lots of manufacturer training, and you heard there's this adage that if you're given, I want to say it was Benjamin Franklin or maybe Abraham Lincoln, but something that you give him he was given 5 hours to chop down a tree. And so he spent 4 of those hours sharpening his blade. And what John's advising everyone out there is certainly that sort of advice, which is working on your business, working on your operations, working on improvement, because so many of you have had so little time to do that, because you've been so dang busy for the last 5 years. Well, now you have a forced opportunity to push pause, just as your projects have paused, and that is to now work on your business. And John really has highlighted that philosophy, which I'm entirely behind. So on that note, if you are watching and you don't already listen to the podcast, we take all of these interviews and put them out there so that you can listen to it via audio only. Definitely go to your favorite podcast environment and just search for Automation Unplugged, and you'll find the shows. And would love you to subscribe. And if you feel so compelled, leave a review. It does ultimately help us to get wider exposure. And on that note, be well, be safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everyone.